All right, and we are live. Welcome to part 3, the finale of our Introduction to Voiceover Animation series. I'm Anisha Dubois, the Global Co-Director of Events West for the Children's Media Association. So when I first joined CMA, I was told to do events that you would love to attend. And this series, Intro to VO, has been one of them. I am a voiceover actor, and it has been an honor to introduce to all of you some of the individuals that have been instrumental in my career. So you too can learn the tips, tricks, and truths of the industry and all that these amazing ladies have to offer in terms of starting or expanding your VO career. So joining us today as we talk about the audition process and how to prepare for bookings is Brenna Larson. She's not here yet. Brenna is actually in flight. Her flight was delayed. So as soon as she lands, she's running over to the business center and will be able to join us. But I will just intro her as if she was here for when she does join. Brenna is a voice director, casting director, and a voice actor with 10 plus years of experience. She has been my voice director on Rainbow High, LOL Surprise, and more recently, Yummyland. And you can watch all of those shows on YouTube and then go buy the dolls at Target. A couple of Brenna's recent performance credits include Care Bears, Unlock the Magic, and American Girl. And of course, Ali Strawbridge, an Emmy Award-winning co-executive producer for Nickelodeon for over 20 years, working on animated shows including The Backyardigans, Bubble Guppies, Butterbeans Cafe, Dora, and The Tiny Chef Show. And most recently, Ali has shifted her focus solely to voice directing, bringing the characters of the series from page to life. So welcome, Ali.
Thank you.
And then when Brenna, oh, there she is.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect timing. I literally just finished the intros and I said, I'm going to still intro Brenda because she's running from her flight and she'll be here. Can you hear me?
I cannot even believe, guys.
No, can you hear us now?
Okay, I can hear you. Yes.
No, literally, it's perfect timing. I finished the intro and then here you are. I already introed you. I told them, I said, Brenda is running from her flight and she will be here as soon as she can.
I had so much like secondhand, like I've just been there and it's like, it's a session, like it's a VO session, like there's talent waiting, like whatever it is. I was like feeling for you. That's amazing that you're here already. Good job.
Some miracle.
I have not even gone into question when I'm about to do that right now.
Perfect. Hi guys, good to see you.
Awesome. So my first question, in part 1 of this series, Intro to VO, we talked about learning to use your voice. And then part 2 was all about agent representation. So my first question are agents the only way voice actors can get heard by you? Like, do you all cast voice talent any other way? Anyone can go first.
Well, for me, because I do cast some union, some non-union, I do have a roster as well that people can submit their info to, and then I'll go through and I'm always looking for new talent, so I'm listening to everybody's demos and looking at their previous work, and so I do reach out to some people directly, but primarily I do reach out to agencies and trust their expertise to send the people that are right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How about you, Ali?
Similar. I don't do much casting myself, but one thing that I have been told, because sometimes I'll be like walking down the street and I'm like, oh my God, that person has such a cool voice. I wonder if, or somebody has come to me, whether it's a parent and been like, my kid, like, I think would really enjoy this. Like, can they come in and like to Nickelodeon and audition? And the like short answer is kind of no, because I feel like you do kind of need some sort of representation to get through some of the paperwork stuff that like a big corporation like Nickelodeon or Paramount might be like, get yourself represented and then things go a little more smoothly.
Gotcha. So after receiving the best auditions, right, from the best talent the agency has to offer, those auditions are then sent your way. So when you receive them, like, what are you listening for in an audition? Like, what talent books those coveted roles?
I think with that, sometimes it's like, I know, it's sometimes you want, or always, I think you want it to sound natural. Like you don't want the audition to sound like somebody is acting, right? And you're only listening, you have no visuals. And so I think that sounding natural is great, not over performing is great in an audition. And a lot of times we're looking for, you know, something unique about the tone of the voice, which isn't necessarily, you know, sometimes that's just nature. You know, but sometimes you're like, oh, that's a really cool little whatever. That's just a voice quality that, you know, isn't really something you can train, but is there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like first and foremost, I'm looking for people that sound like human beings, or I guess sometimes they're like teddy bears and stuff, but it sounds like a human communicating, which comes down to like, can I hear the relationship within this? Can I hear the thoughts behind what they're saying? Can I hear the environment that they're in? I feel like all of those lead into sounding like what Ali was saying, like a natural read. And also what Ali was saying, like trying to fit together the puzzle pieces of who has already been cast, or who are best friends that need to not sound exactly like each other, or kind of just fitting together all the pieces. But yeah, it's the best puzzle.
Gotcha. So I could be totally wrong here, as I'm always on the other side auditioning, but I imagine you all go through the auditions, maybe select your top 5 or top 3. If that is the process, how do you narrow it down from there? Or if not, what is the process once you receive those talent auditions?
I think for me, it kind of varies because I work with so many different producers who have different preferences with what they want as far as how many I send over, or like what format I send them over. But for the most part, I send about 5 to 15 after I've narrowed down through all of the hundreds of auditions. And then the producers kind of pick from there, and I'll give opinions and, you know, say why I sent each person, but mostly the producers pick after that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same for you, Ali?
It's a little bit different for me because I was on the producer side for so long, and I'm not actually in the casting department. I already get a narrow list. So usually the list that I get is like the top 5.
Okay.
And then from that, I'm usually at the callbacks. So one of the things that helps outside of just like what you're liking and responding to and what we talked about in the previous question is then in the callback, actually, what's it like working with the person? Obviously, voice quality and performance is huge. For me, at least half of the talent that I work with is kids. So sometimes, you know, just like, what is their ability to do this job? And it's not, you know, like I've worked with really young kids who can't even read, but it's just like, can we do this? Is there a flow? You know, so that also factors into it sometimes, just how you get a little peek in callbacks of like how the directing and the sessions will go.
Gotcha. So following direction in an audition, right? And then taking that direction in the booth is a necessary skill, especially in the booth, and having the ability to hear direction 1 second and then implement that direction the very next second. So can you speak on the importance of not getting stuck in a reading rhythm and being 100% coachable in a session?
I can go first. I think one of the things you were saying, that you work a lot with kids, and so do I, and it's my very favorite. And part of the reason that it's my favorite is kids usually come into the booth and they're just ready to play. And that is so much fun. Like, I feel like they come in and they already kind of have a little idea of the character, but it feels like playtime for them, which when adults come in and it's playtime, like chef's kiss, it's brilliant. And I feel like that is such a hard thing to not go in being like, I'm a professional, I don't want to mess up. Like, you just have to go in and be like, I'm going to have fun today. And that's so hard and easier said than done, but I think we can take a lesson from the kiddos. Yeah,
I love that you mentioned that, because, you know, as an adult, you would think, gotta go in here, I wanted this job so bad. I got it. I got to nail it. So you're super serious. But then kids come in like, okay. So I think to have that kid-like spirit, I've never heard that before. But so next time I see you, I'm going to come in like, let's.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I feel like you already do. Like you come in ready to play. So yeah, I love it.
I love that note. Thank you. What about you, Allie?
I think honestly, one thing that's great about kids is they don't tend to have the ego factor that some adults have. And it's sometimes it's like a fine balance because, I've directed anyone from like a young kid, like I said, to like a A-list celebrity. And a lot of the job is actually like, who am I working with here? And like sometimes you can get there are some people that just really don't want to get a line read. Like if it's like not working and you're like, I'm kind of hearing this and this is what I would like to hear. And you say it for them. Like some people are going to be like, like this is my craft. And I'm an actor and like, don't tell me how to say my line. So you have to kind of like feel for that. And I would say that from having met all different kinds of egos, you should be open to do whatever it is that the director is looking for because, and this really does not tend to be a problem with kids at all. But for the adults that are interested, I think that like, part of the job is just doing what your director is asking. And ideally that happens while you're like having a ton of fun. Because like you were saying, Brenna, like if you're having fun, things are going to sound natural. We're making children's television. Like that is the goal.
So the script is already written, right? But how important of a skill is the VO talent being able to improv? Like, and do you ever call upon that skill, like improvising in the booth? They have the script, but like going off the script and like, is it a necessary skill? Do you call on it or?
You want to go first?
Sure. I love me some improv. And I do think that it's another thing that depends a lot on the talent, also on the project. Like sometimes the EPs on a series are like, this is the script, don't go off script, and like, so I don't even have a choice whether the talent wants to or not. There's no choice there. But if there's the freedom for that to happen, I think it's awesome. Like I love it. Sometimes if a person's really into the character that they're putting on, they might be like, I think the character might throw in here, whatever it is, or something bigger than that when it comes to ad-libbing. And I'm almost always for it. Like you can get the alternate as what's on the page, but I think it's a major bonus as long as the talent isn't like going overboard with like trying to change the whole script as you go through. But yeah, Brenna, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And from the actor side of my brain, I think that improv is so important, and not just for like acting technique, but I feel like when I started taking groundlings, I changed as a human being. Like I just became so much more flexible and like it felt like play again. Like I was saying, I'm just going to say play 400 times, but it feels like you can go in and it doesn't feel like everything doesn't feel so serious. It just is like, let's create things and let's jump into characters and make characters on the spot. And as far as like in the session, I think for me, I always love to get at least one take of as written, just so that our writers feel like heard and seen. And but I also agree with you, Allie, that you find such gems because everybody involved is bringing their own skill set, and the actors are going to bring their ideas too, which is awesome.
Yeah, I actually booked a spot for Google just based off improv. They just wanted to hear your natural reaction to a question. And I was like, oh my God, like I took one groundlings class and I was so intimidated, like, oh my God, I just have to be a voice actor behind the scenes. Nobody sees me. So I was kind of intimidated. So I haven't taken one since, but I will say I think I'm pretty good with improv. But yeah, the entire script for Google was just improv reactions. So
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. So I want to talk about voice actors having range, right? For me, I know with you, Brenna, I was able to voice two characters in the same show in the same scene due
Yeah.
to me having range. And I think about Nancy Cartwright, right? One of the greats. And because she voiced Bart Simpson and then three other characters in The Simpsons. So can you talk about the importance of range? And is it a skill you look for when you're auditioning talent
Hmm.
or looking for talent?
Yeah.
100% depending on the actor. Sorry, I just
Yeah.
jumped in.
It's so true.
But I mean, I think that a lot of times when we're casting kids, you're really looking for it's their natural voice and then how
Mm.
they're able to do with performance. Because I think it's fair to say that the majority of kids, if they're trying to put on a voice, it can get tough. Like that's tricky under a certain age level. It
Yeah.
can be done, but it's
Mm.
tricky. Once you get past that level of being able to really perform outside of your own just natural vocal range, that is like such a skill and such a incredible that some of the actors that we use who have this like crazy range. I mean, it's just such a bonus. It's like bonus points, you know. And a lot of people are like, yeah, I can do voices, but then they just like put on an accent, and like that's actually totally different from a different voice, you know. So I would say it's a huge benefit if you can do it, but that's a skill that takes a lot of practice.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. Totally. I think usually it just really depends for me too, because like right now I'm casting a project where we do have to have actors play multiple characters. But then sometimes there are some actors that I feel like maybe don't have the best like range, but what they do is so good and so unique that there's so many places for them within this industry.
Yeah.
And so like as long as the acting is there, then that's mostly what I'm listening for, but it is such a bonus to have that range.
Gotcha. So I touched on this briefly in my second question, but when your auditions or when you get to hear, what the actor can do, what can they do to deliver the best read? Like what reads get your attention? Like, oh, love that. Because you don't really know how they can improv or things like that. But like when you're listening, like what really like gotta have them like gotta do a callback with them, or like she's getting the role, he's getting the role.
I think I'm always about like subtext and the thoughts behind the words. I think that's what makes us connect to performances, is when you like there's so many layers to a character. Yeah, and then also comedic timing is super important for animation.
Gotcha.
I was going to mention the timing thing as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I think it depends is where I came in on the process of the series or show or whatever it is. So if I've like been there from, pilot idea, and it's like I already know who the characters are, I just
Yeah.
don't know what actor is voicing them. So I feel like listening, I'm just like, that's it. That's our Molly or whatever it is. And every once in a while so I think that, understanding the character description that goes out there, if you're an actor and being like, okay, it looks like they're looking for this, even though I know those character descriptions can sometimes be super generic. If there's any little piece in there that gives you something, like if it's the word spunky or whatever it is, I think you can lean into that, because it might pop for one of us who's listening.
And I also think, sorry to keep going, but I also think that if you can do, along with what you were saying, Allie, about like doing what's on the page and what's given to you is so important. And then also doing what lights you up after that, because a lot of times if you just follow the page, then I'm going to hear 400 of the same read. But if you're like, this really makes me laugh, then it will probably make me laugh too, because I laugh at everything.
Are you saying like go in like that second take, like go for it?
in your second take, or even if your first take, like if I read something and I'm like, it doesn't specifically say this, not like an accent or anything, I'm not going to add that. But if I added like a giggle or a breath or just doing a reversal somewhere within the text, then like I love to hear something like unique like that, because your thoughts are going to be unique.
Okay. So they've booked the role, right? And now it's their first time working with either of you. How can they prepare for that actual session? Like, what are you looking for in the session that maybe you weren't looking for or listening for or didn't require in the audition?
I would say that I think it's awesome when the actor reads the script, and that might sound dumb because people are like, "What do you mean? Actors don't read the scripts?" But sometimes they don't, and there's a lot going on. It doesn't whether it's an adult or a kid. Maybe the kid just got home from school and like they're just walk in and they haven't read it, but I think that's having an understanding of the script, and maybe the producer or director's take on it might be different from what you get out of it when you read it.
Yeah.
But I love being able to collaborate a little bit or feel like the talent is part of what's going on in the booth.
Yeah.
And I've also, purely just had talent be like, oh, like, aren't they flipping over the top of a mountain here? Should I get some effort noises, or do you want to go on some effort noise? Like, I'm like, yes, thank you. You're doing my job for me, but like, thank you for knowing what's going on in the script outside of just like, okay, I'm jumping to line 132, go, so that's what I would say.
Yeah, totally. Reading the script, incredible. If you have time, I feel like we always send our scripts out ahead of time. But yeah, like totally. And then also knowing those relationships and having opinions about those relationships. But then being prepared, knowing what you need to know, but then also coming in and being willing to bend on those ideas or adjust some of those things.
Yeah. That's me from the actor side. Like when I go in, I get the script before I read it, I look it over, but I don't commit to it 100%. When I get in there, 50-60% of the time, there may be a line change and I don't ever want to be flustered. So like, I don't stick, like, I just know this is it. But when I get in there, it probably will change, and then too, if I may do my 3 takes in a row, but then they may say, okay, do it this way because we were thinking it would sound like this, and just being able to easily quickly in a second's notice that. So I would agree, and also just add like read it so you're prepared, but then just be willing to totally change.
I feel like this all comes full circle too to Brenna's big first point, which is like, please come in wanting to have fun.
That part.
We are making cartoons.
And then,
so like, yeah.
Yeah, and our kids are so unserious. So like, relax. So this is something I think of as an animated voiceover actor. Not sure why I never inquired about this before, but in animated sessions, is the animation already completed and then the voice actors have to like read the pace, like read to the pace of to match the animation, or is it like vice versa? And then like which one leads to an easier session, like having it already recorded and the actor just has to match that tone, or flipped?
So on our end, we usually have animatics, which is just kind of like a little stick drawing of all of the characters. But the actor doesn't really see those. I usually see those beforehand, so I can kind of feel the rhythm of each episode. But for the most part, we're like playing off of each other. So each show has a rhythm, I would say. I don't know. I'm sure, Ali, you are with the show for so long that you can probably speak on that more. But yeah, each of our shows has like a certain vibe that I kind of try to direct people into, but we love what the actors bring too. So
I think I'm really glad that we both get to answer all these questions because so ideally, if you're working on like a long-term series, like if it's, well, it doesn't even matter what the long form is, but what we always wanted to do was like script, record, get the sessions done as early as possible. Like ideally there's an entire radio play cut together that the storyboard artists can listen to, and when they're drawing their characters and they're like, oh wow, that kid really delivered that line with a punch, they're gonna put like that expression on the character that they're drawing into the storyboard. That's like ideal worlds. I've worked on many a show where the storyboard is, you know, completed and we're having to like have scratch audio in the storyboard and drop the final audio in. But ideally the artists can actually work off of what they're hearing and what the performances are to like get that into what people see on the screen, which, you know, ideal world. And to answer the second part of that question, I think it's more difficult if, you know, if you're already working to final picture, then if there's lip flap, you know, then you're doing ADR and you're totally bound to the lip flap, and it adds an extra layer of difficulty. It's fun in a different way, but you don't have the freedom.
Okay. So for me, when I'm in the booth, right, my theatrics, you can ask Brent, like my theatrics are on full display. I'm holding imaginary microphones, hand on my hip, like when it's time to give sass. And I don't care who sees me. But I feel it enhances my performance, right? Are there any tips that you can give the actor in the booth to deliver the performance that you're looking for?
Yeah, I think
do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you have to act with your whole body, like just becoming this character for the 30 minutes, 2 hours, however long your session is. Like becoming that character is awesome. That's always going to add to it. Build out the world around you. See that bouncy house next to you or whatever's in the scene. Feel the cold air, everything. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I act with your body and your face, all of it as much as possible, trying to avoid techs, but, you know, hitting the mic stand or something so we can't use that take because there's a tech, but like always, it's, you can hear it. I had a young kid once was like, I told him, I was like, let me see it, like open your eyes really wide. And he's like, but they're not going to be able to see me, right? He was really young. And I was like, yeah, but you can hear it. I'm like, I'll close my eyes while you do it. I promise you, I'll know whether or not you're smiling while you say that line, even with my eyes closed, you know? So yes, put your whole body into it.
Because you really do, like, because you're just voice acting, and when you're doing all these theatrics and movements, like as the actor, I do feel silly, but I know I'm there to do a job. So I don't care who's watching. Like I once did a dubbing session for a film on Netflix called Gangland, and like I was the main character, and she was like a gun-toting girl running around Paris, and I'm like holding fake guns like in the session, but it worked. It was totally believable, and again, I didn't care how crazy I looked because I thought it was insane. But like you said, it works. Like just literally using my entire body, and it helped me, you know, portray the character. Okay, crazy. This is my last question. I feel like we blew through this. But the role is booked, right? The session is recorded, and the show is now on air. Is there anything expected of the talent at that point? Like, even if it's not expected, but maybe appreciated. For instance, like the show is out, but you may want the actor to share it on their social platforms. Because I know before it's out, it's very tight-lipped, NDA, shut your mouth. But after it's out to the world, is it like, like share it? Like, what is required or not required of them, but you all still appreciate?
Nothing required, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome to share your work, but I mean, I just love that people, if they're like excited about what they're working on, but nothing changes my perspective on the actors, but
Yeah, I was waiting for you to go first just because I'm always like, please, like, put it out there. Yes, be like find out the premiere date and like put it on social, whatever. And I just the only thing that I have come across sometimes is that it's good if you the non-professional side of me is like, put it out there, put it all out there, like. All press is good press. If you're working for a huge corporation, they might have certain pieces that they do or don't want you to share. So I would say, don't go rogue and find something like on the dark web that's an image of the character that you played and post that and be like, my character is coming out. Just make sure if you're posting anything visual, I would say just check that it's an approved visual. But outside of that, like, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, put it out there.
So I did have a question. Karen asked, do you have any tips for directing kids? Because, you know, Ali, you mentioned like smiling to deliver great lines, but are there any tools or tips to, like, you know, for kids when you're directing them?
I think the main thing is to speak to their highest intelligence and don't ever like speak down to them. I think when you're interacting with kids, whether you're directing them or not, I think always see them as the bright, brilliant little people that they are, you know? That's probably the biggest one for me.
Yeah, I think it's like about reading the kid. And so this is, I think, in a way more of like a note for any directors out there. Like, I feel like a big part of the job is having a little bit of a understanding of the human being that you're working with, which usually doesn't happen in like the first session, you know? So it's much easier on a long series type of thing as you like get to know them and like what works. But I do think like every kid is different. You know, some kids don't even totally want to be there. And like, you can tell that like they're doing it because their parents are that's rare. But like when it happens, it's like, it's really hard. But I think like just knowing the kid is really knowing the person. Some want to play with it more. Some are like, please read every line to me. Like, that's easier for me. And I like it that way. So yeah.
And figuring out their version of play, which I think that's true for adults too, just like finding how they want to be silly.
Yeah. I love that. I can't believe you finished this in like 30 minutes. I feel like I could add on more questions. But I am so grateful to you, Ali, to you, Brenna. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. For everyone watching, this has been like, again, voiceover is like my favorite thing in the world. So to be able to bring all of the brilliant people I've worked with, and Ali, I hope to work with you soon, like just giving tips to the industry. Like, I'm so grateful for both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Brenna, for like finding that conference center or wherever you are. I feel for you. You did it. Good job.
It was like text. We talked this earlier today, and she was
like, "Oh my god,
it'll work." And you literally popped on as I said like the last line in the intro. So awesome! Thank you both so much. Have an amazing weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Bye.